I think this is the greatest evidence that the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and could not be written by man 1,400 years ago. In chapter 24, verse 40, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Or it is like darkness in a deep sea, covered by a wave, above which is another wave, above which are clouds, layers of darkness, one above another. When one puts out his hand, he can hardly see it." So clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing deep, deep below the ocean where there's layers of darkness where we now know if you put your hand out, you can't see it because of how dark it is deep below the ocean's surface. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing internal waves, which we only recently discovered. And we now know that there are waves that are below the surface waves that we see. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran describes clouds, surface waves, and then there's waves below that because he says there's waves above which are waves, above which are clouds. So this is the clearest evidence that the Quran could not come from a man, that it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially not from a man that lived in the desert 1,400 years ago. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finishes the verse saying, "And whoever Allah does not grant light, for him there is no light." In other words, whoever does not receive guidance or mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no guidance. Even with a verse as clear-cut as this one, where it perfectly outlines something that could not have been known 1,400 years ago, and the most beautiful analogy for the sinners, people will still find a reason not to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.